All right, we're back, Janice. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you, Kelly?
I'm good. As we're doing a day of recording. Okay, so you're listening to Life Talk with Janice and Kelly. I'm Kelly, that's Janice. And we have been sharing about common things that we tell clients. And so Janice is going to share her third thing that she tells most clients.
My third thing that I often share with clients is building a new neural pathway.
Okay.
And that there are people who can make change quickly. You're one of those. Once you decide, once you choose, you're going to do something differently or new, you can put that into implementation quickly. Of course, I think that goes back to your the last video of we get to decide and we get to choose, is that you exercise that a lot. That option of I get to decide, I get to choose. So when you decide to put something new in your life or to start something new in your life, your implementation goes quickly.
Okay.
There are lots of other people, procrastinators for sure, that don't make that choice or implement it as quickly as you or other people do. So the whole point of change, to me, this is my personal opinion, is that, that old saying of practice makes perfect. If I have chosen to be negative, I'm going back to your last video, if I've chosen to be negative that day, and I choose more days to be negative than not, then I have built a new neural pathway in my brain that gets used regularly.
Yep.
Okay. So I think of the Autobahn, where you get to drive at any speed. This is my version of it. You get to drive in at any speed that you choose. There is no speed limit like there is in the US. So that neural pathway, if I choose negative more often than not, that neural pathway gets pretty slick, kind of like the luge course in the Olympics. It gets really slick. It doesn't take much effort for you to go from 0 to negative on a daily basis. It becomes the pathway, the neural pathway that you use most in your life. To change that, some people will, not some people, everybody will need to do a new neural pathway. And so I think of when we build roads is that we lay it in sections, and eventually all the sections get laid and you have a new road that they'll open it up and we get to drive on it. But the sections are all the same. They're all made in the same way. Same thing with a neural pathway. If I've been thinking negative and choosing negative, and I want to implement more positive, if I want to be, and I'm thinking of gratefulness, the practice of being grateful. I need to practice being grateful regularly every day. That will help me build a new neural pathway where the old pathway begins to crumble and not be quite as easy to traverse as the new pathway will be when it's finished, but it takes practice and repetition. So when we were working with kids, we talked about repetition, repetition, repetition for kids to learn something new. That's why we put songs with things we want to teach kids, because music and adds to it and all that other stuff. So if I'm going to choose to be different in some way, I have to lay down a new neural pathway in my brain. It does not work in my best interest to think that I can go from 0 to perfect and have that neural pathway built in a day, or just because I decide. So that's where I'm going to push up against your theory just a little bit, because I think you have to get up every morning if you're going to and make that decision. If I'm going to exercise for 10 minutes, I need to make that decision every day.
Yes, absolutely.
You pick the time of day that you're going to make that decision. If I pick soon as I get out of bed before I do anything else, that's still a choice I make, but it's not I one and done.
Not at all.
So the neural pathway has to be built.
And also, you may have to be doing that many times a day. Because what you're saying about the repetition is our brain is a pattern-seeking muscle.
Right.
It requires repetition to build the synaptic connections that build that neural pathway.
Lasting synaptic connection.
Yes. And so it's a series of that. And so when you were saying about practicing gratefulness, how long do you have to do that?
Oh, well, that's all over the board. You mean for it to become a habit or for the neural pathway to be built?
Yeah. What do you tell clients?
Well, if they say that can be built in 22 days?
21 days builds a habit, and that's not true.
No, but if that's what they believe, I don't mess with that.
Sure.
Because if they believe it's going to be built in 21 days, I'm going to let them continue to believe that, because that's better than me saying, no, that's wrong. It really takes 60 something before it becomes muscle memory.
Right. So what I tell clients is until it's done, until you don't have to do it anymore. I mean, you have to practice it until you don't have to, because it becomes the habit.
That's right.
It's like brushing your teeth. How many times do your parents have to tell you to brush your teeth morning and night before they don't need to tell you anymore? Well, they do it until they don't need to anymore. And then it's just the habit. So you do it until. What's the option?
The option is
staying the way you are.
That's right. No growth, no change, no. That's why those stages of change, contemplation can last for years until you decide. And making that decision every day.
Do you see how powerful that word is?
Yep.
It is. We get to choose. So just choose in favor of yourself.
That's right.
Choose to set down new neural pathways. And it's possible. It is so possible to do. And you brought up something else that kind of gnaws at me.
Oh, that's a great way to say that.
It's the word perfect. You said
that's a hard job to be perfect.
Well, here we go to what I tell clients is perfect is a mirage. It doesn't exist. There is nothing perfect, and we're trying to obtain something that isn't real anyway. Because the definition of perfect means as good as it can be. Doesn't mean it's flawless. It just means as good as it can be. And so that's I'm on a one-woman crusade to remove that word from our vocabulary. Because so many people are striving for something that's never going to happen. And so they
hold themselves to that expectation.
Yes.
They'll never reach it.
And they stay in this state of flux, feeling dissatisfied with themselves because they haven't reached something that isn't real anyway. So that's my rant.
That's your soapbox, and you're going to stand on it today.
I am. Remove that word.
So all those books out there that talk about how to change, eat the biggest frog first, tiny habits,
one bite at a time,
atomic habits, or atomic atomic habits.
We talked about compounding habits or stacking habits or
Stacking habits. Yeah, tying it to something that's already got muscle memory and that you don't even think about it. So the example that comes up in my head is when you're in the shower, and of course, when you're in the shower, it's pretty much muscle memory, and you're thinking about something totally outside the shower, and you can't remember whether you've washed your hair or not. I mean, yes, it's wet, but did I put soap on it? And so often having to check to see if I rinsed the soap out of it, or did it have any soap in it to begin with? Because I have stepped out of the shower and reached for that little turban thing you put on your head and go, oh, I don't think I washed my hair. I got it wet, but I didn't wash it. So I stepped back in and I washed my hair. And then halfway through, I might figure out that I've already washed it. But it doesn't matter.
That's
so
hilarious.
if you want change, if you want to make life different, I'm going to pick up your last one. Choose, decide, and then practice it every day, maybe multiple times a day, depending on what it is you want to change.
Yes. And, we've talked before about how I was raised by someone who's negative. So that was the neural pathway in my brain. And every day when I made the decision that I didn't like the way I felt being that way and I wanted to think differently, it didn't just happen. Now, I don't remember exactly how long, but it felt like a year. But I had to choose to pay attention to everything my brain was thinking. And it was work. And I don't have to do it anymore. Because all of a sudden, I recognized I wasn't having to do it. It was just there.
Yes. New neural pathway has been built.
Yes.
It's present on a daily basis.
And I keep that highway in fresh shape because I choose to continually practice that positive view instead of the negative.
I'm thinking about potholes now, that occasionally your road develops potholes and you have to decide that you want to restore that and not have those bumps. So when something in your life occurs that is not so positive, you have to work to find, that's that part of working to find whether there's any benefit or what do I learn from this situation.
Yes.
Just like when I got rear-ended and my car got totaled. Was there anything good about that? Didn't feel like it for a while.
Sure.
But it turned out to be in my best interest on some level.
Yeah. I don't know if my daughter will like me sharing this or not, but she called me one day and the place she was working decided to close their office. And so she was out of a job and she was upset, obviously upset. And I was like, oh, well, this is a perfect opportunity for you. She's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I was like, oh, you're going to get unemployment and you can go back to school. I said, perfect opportunity for you. And she was able to see that after she got in that groove of that. But, when those situations happen, yeah, it doesn't mean you're supposed to go, oh, I'm so happy this is happening to me. But you also don't go down the this is the worst thing ever. My life is over. It's accepting it for what it is and going, and I do this. What can I learn from this?
Well, my dad used to call that falling in the ditch.
Okay.
My dad was raised in the country. And so country roads, you have a ditch on each side. And some people go from ditch to ditch.
Yes.
And some people drive down the middle of the road, which is in my way of thinking is much more preferable than going from ditch to ditch. But you've seen those people that today it's this problem, tomorrow it's that problem. Then they come back.
And as you're working on this, you're trying to get them to make that movement. And the goal is to get into the middle, and they just, bloop, they're already in the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that again.
Yeah.
So
So
share again.
the new neural pathway, building change requires a new neural pathway, and change requires the decision or the choice that Kelly talks about in her video about how you're going to practice building that new neural pathway.
And it's possible.
Oh, sure, it's possible.
It is so possible because our brain is elastic and we can make those changes.
That's right. That is right. So thanks for joining us. Come back after you've liked and subscribed, because we have more to share. And next time it'll be Kelly's turn.
Yep. All right.
Okay. All right.